All right, let's see. Are we live? Yes, we are. Fantastic. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the studio. My voice is getting over a cold. So it sounds worse than it is. I actually feel better today than I have in previous days, but I sound worse. So that's okay. Who needs to talk, right? It is week 2 for everybody in the studio, and everybody has class this week. See, that's what the first slide should say. Whoops, hang on. Let's switch the screen. No. Well, we're off to a great start here. Let me set up my hotkey here so that way I can change my slides for you. So everyone has class this week. And we're gonna talk a little bit. We talked last week, we'll talk again about that Thanksgiving week and what that looks like, okay? So stay tuned for housekeeping and make sure that you watch that part. Let's see if this works this time. There we go. Now we're working. Everybody has class this week. Woo! Look at that. Let's talk about those fundamentals, shall we? Our fundamentals classes, we're talking pattern this month and ink and the art of Henry Matisse. I keep disappearing into my green screen too. So it's a morning, I guess. We played with Sumi Ink last week. That's what this artist is doing. We started on a project that we're going to work on this week and next week. And that is these like large scale kind of portraits using the Sumi ink. And so in this week's class, we're going to add some color to them using chalk pastels. Last week we read Ish by Peter H. Reynolds. We did some like crumpling paper art, which is a nod to what happens in the story. And then we also did one of my favorites, which is the portraits using the plexiglass. So in our journal time, rather than working in our journals, we had plexiglass sheets that the artist could hold up, and a partner then traced the facial features that they saw through the glass. So it's kind of a fun project and a different way to explore portraiture. It's silly and we get lots of giggles. It also encourages a little bit of partnership and kind of cooperative play. So this week we will do Brown Bear by Eric Carle. And we're going to make some painted paper. And because that is something that Eric Carle uses in his media, as well as Henry Matisse. For our K3 artists, it's ink month. So as a reminder, please make sure you're wearing old clothes to the studio or art clothes to the studio because Sumi ink is not a washable medium. Last week, we looked at our slideshow. So you can see here in this photo, we've got our slideshow up and talking about contemporary art and the subject matter and the medium that we're going to be using. And then we played with Sumi ink just to kind of understand the tools and medium that we've got. And I meant to bring glass pens and I forgot. But we used brushes, straw nibs, and glass pens. Those were the favorites. I like a glass pen. Not everybody does. It creates a mono width line. I think it feels heavy in your hand when you're holding it, and it has a different feel on the paper than like a ballpoint pen or a felt tip pen. So it was fun, and the kids got to play with that. This week they'll have their hopefully animal chosen, and they'll work on drawing that on their large scale picture, and they'll use whatever Sumi ink tool they want or combination of. For our 4th and our 5th graders and our homeschool artists, we're creating this modern travel poster. So think back to like those vintage travel posters that you've seen. Similar concept, similar style. We're using alcohol ink markers for this, for their ink month. Alcohol ink markers, also not very washable. So please wear your little bit less likely to get on you, unlike Sumi ink, which is a liquid. This is actually in a marker, but you never know. So wear your art clothes to the studio for this month. We looked at art inspiration, same as the K3s and slideshows. We also had some reference photos of different landmarks and travel destinations. I I'm the one that made them all. So I mean, there's like the pyramids, and there's Paris with the Eiffel Tower, but there's also the Grand Canyon and the beaches of Jamaica. And so I found some different images of those places and printed them out in I bumped up the saturation when I printed the photos just to help the kids be able to see the difference in the landscape. So these are printed, and then they spent some time doing thumbnail sketches and practice sketching, finding the most important parts of that picture because it is a simplified poster. This week they'll take their whatever image they're going to actually work with, and they'll transfer it onto their 9x12 paper and get started on inking. We'll also have a lesson in how to use the alcohol markers because you do color with them differently than you do with maybe a Crayola washable marker. For our middle schoolers and our high schoolers, the project this month is a super detailed, fluffy creature composition. It can be one creature, it can be many creatures, it can be a grid of creatures, they can be interacting with each other. Um, but it is similar to stippling, also similar to cross hatching. It is done with a lot of little lines to create both value, shape, and form. So we looked at the art of Cam Wai Fong because that's who we're inspired by to do this project. We also played with the different microns, which I mentioned in last week's video, and I'll mention again. Micron is a brand of pen. It's a brand of archival ink pens. It's a drawing pen that comes in different widths. So we have them in, I won't even go into the numbers, but let's say 8 different widths of pen. And so we played with those, and we call them microns, although we have both Micron brand as well as the the Michaels brand, the Artist Loft brand. But so there we may have brands other than microns, but just like you call facial tissues Kleenex, same kind of thing. So we played with the microns and got familiar with those. That's what this artist is doing here in her journal. We looked at some inspiration. We also did brainstorming with like thumbnails and creatures and compositions. We began our pencil sketches and hopefully have a good start on inking. Really, from here on out, it's just work time. For my creative exploration kids, so they had their first week last week. This will be week 2. We've got our stations up here. I would say the favorite was the Sumi ink and the glass pens because it's a novel experience. I think it's very sensory rich and very calming to use a glass pen. So they had a lot of fun doing that. Um, the other one that was fun was the painted paper. I worked with Grace for the Friday class in Liberty, so I know this. Painted paper and collage station was really fun. We had a lot of different kind of like what we call odd painting tools. That's literally what they're labeled in the closet. There's a bucket and it says odd painting tools. So we got out all of our scrapers and stampers and like forks and just things that make different patterns and prints and rollers and played with making different um, textured painted papers. So we kept those, and then this week we'll of course still make more, but we'll chop them up and use them in a collage. So trying to think if there were others that were really those were the ones that were the favorite. So drawing 101. Now I've got some sketchbooks to show you. So our 101 classes last week, for a warm up, we drew Campbell soup cans. So we have selection in the studio and talked a little bit about Andy Warhol and drew some Campbell soup cans. Because, our theme for the month is food. So Andy Warhol made some food art. He made some soup can art. So we looked at that and we drew that. That was our warm up. And then we did recipe drawings. So remember, our 101 lesson does both illustrative drawing and realistic drawing. So we pull from kind of both sides of our brain. Like we're drawing a lot from imagination. We're also using symbols. We're also using illustration techniques. And so this was a very heavy illustration lesson, and we illustrated less or recipes. So we had the kids think of a recipe, either a real one that they can make or a made up one, and then draw the directions for somebody to read. So we like a visual pictorial recipe. Um, so that was really fun and very silly. I've got a couple examples. So here's one. We can see we use some symbols in our drawing, which is the way that we communicate visually. I taught the Wednesday night class and we talked a lot about using like directional lines. Here's a good example of that one. So you can see we're stirring, right? So like how do we illustrate that action or that movement? And we use symbols and lines in there. So lots of great stuff happening in there. Here's another one. So in my class anyway, I told them to we did one together, and then they worked on theirs, and then we took turns trying to read each other's recipes, which always produces a lot of giggles. So in our class this week, kind of continuing with the food theme, we're going to be doing a fruit still life. So this goes more towards realistic, right? So we're not doing illustrated drawing. We're going to do a still life. So we have real fruit in the studio. I bought it. It's apples and pears. Apple, pear, and oranges. I think apples, pears, and oranges. In the past, I've gone crazy and gotten like pineapples and grapes, but although that is fun to draw, you don't get better drawings when you get more complicated fruits. So I was like, we'll stick to the basics. So, so we're going to draw that with chalk pastels and try to focus on relative size. For drawing 101, we're looking at relative size and relative positioning. And we're starting to get some values in there and color and hue and all that stuff. For my 102s, it's also kind of a food month. So they drew, and I've actually brought this one, but then it's green, so you're not going to be able to see it. So they drew fruit from, or vegetables, culinarily speaking, vegetables. I understand avocado is a fruit, but culinarily, we're going to call it a vegetable. They drew them from photograph using colored pencils and tried to work really hard on blending and layering and burnishing. Of course, the green radish top is not going to show up on this, but look at all those great colors and colored pencils that are happening in this. I don't know if it's a radish or a beet, but could be either. Here's another really great one. It has some, right? I mean, don't those look so three-dimensional? And the reason it looks 3D to us is because we have a difference in value that changes as we go around the carrot, right? Isn't that great? There's also different colors of oranges that are used here. We can't see our marks, which is something we talk about when we use colored pencils. It's equivalent to brush strokes when you're painting. So when you're using colored pencils, a lot of times to achieve that photo real kind of or hyper real look, you have to hide your mark. You have to color so smoothly that you can't see your brush strokes, so to speak. They did a good job with that. For our 102 illustrative, oh wait, hang on, 102 realistic. So that was this week's lesson, was the vegetables, or last week's lesson. In this week's lesson, we're going to draw that same fruit still life that our 101s are doing. So we'll keep the same thing up with the same fruit, same medium. We're using chalk pastels. A little bit different objective though, because we really, I mean, we assume that they can get relative size and relative positioning. Like that's expected. What we're looking for is value and hue. So we really want, and details and texture, right? So the orange has a different texture than an apple. How do you represent that? All right, in our illustrative classes, I was wrong last week, you guys. So this is what I get for trying to go from memory. I told you in last week's video that the kids were going to be doing fauna in week 1, and I was so wrong. Fauna is week 2. Week 1 was animals. So I'm sure they were all pleasantly surprised. So it was animals last week. So we looked at different styles and how illustrators represent animals, and everything from like our chibi style to like the Disney style to your anime style, and then we drew animals. So everybody was really happy with this lesson. It's a fun one. So you got some animals that are in the storyline still animals, and then we've got some animals in our storyline that take on the characteristics of a person, right? Some other great ones. So lots of good stuff there. That's a lot of A lot of opportunity there when we get to a wild card week to flesh out those animal characters. So if they came up with one that they really enjoyed, to draw it, with different emotions and different movements, to finish a drawing with ink and color. So, because right now we mostly have pencil sketches, but there's a lot more we can do with that. In illustrative drawing this week, it is fauna weeks. This is where we'll look at the elements in our natural world, our trees, our bushes, our flowers. We'll look at the different ways that illustrators draw those, and how that impacts the story, the mood, the environment, and then we'll play with that ourselves. All right, 103. Grace grabbed me 103. She always helps me get all my stuff together. Here we go. So our 103 illustrators are looking at the art of Lichtenstein. So if you're familiar with Roy Lichtenstein, it's very pop art, and he uses words in his artwork, and the words are usually onomatopoeia. They're usually sound words, although sometimes they're captions. They're very traditional comic, but it's fine art, so it's blown up. He's not a comic artist. He's a fine artist. And he had like primary colors and Ben-Day dots that are used in it. So our artists are exploring that style in their own art. They were challenged with a close-up portrait of a character with onomatopoeia in the background. So I think so we've got, okay, this is what she pulled for me. So we've got a couple things. This one here is a sketch. So not a finished artwork, but a sketch that we have started. All right, so this will be transferred to another piece of paper. Here's another one. This one is actually on the size of finished piece of paper. So we've started the sketches as we started to work on our final piece. Our goal this week would be to get that onto this paper and inked. So that way we can get it colored in week 3. Okay. Let me take a drink of coffee and we'll keep going. All right, in our week 3, or in our week 1 for 103 Realistic, we started on a project of pet or animal portraits. The kids could do like a pet, like something that lives in their house, or the dog that they someday hope to get. I mean, anything like that. Or they could do an animal like a tiger, or something more exotic that we don't normally think of as a pet. But we are looking for a portrait, something close up, and looking to render texture. And they're doing theirs with chalk pastels. Okay, let's go through some housekeeping stuff. So yet again, we're going to go through Thanksgiving because we want to make sure everybody's super clear. I'm going to flip to the calendar so that way everybody can see what's happening. So we're right here on the 10th. You can see we've finished week 1 of November, and here's week 2 of November, and here's week 3 of November, which is next week. Now, if you come to a fundamentals class, which is the preschool classes, the toddler art play classes, or a creative explorations class, your classes only meet 3 times a week. So you are not impacted by the winter holidays. It's not something you need to worry about. You're going to get your 3 classes in. You're going to have the week of Thanksgiving off, and we'll see you in December. Now, if you are in a drawing class or a multimedia class, this is a 4-time-a-month class. So we got to get you another class. So you're going to get your 3 classes here. And then for your 4th class, it is an open studio that happens on the 24th or the 25th. And you will choose your time. So you tell us when it works for you. If you normally come Monday at 5 and you still want to come Monday at 5, that's fine. But do make sure that you sign up. So that way we've got you on that roster. The signups are through Sawyer, and it's a $0 entry. If you're on a familiar browser, you shouldn't even have to log in. You should just be able to click the link and hit add to cart, register, sign up, done. But what that does is it's a $0, and then it puts you on that class roster so that we have an accurate roster of who's in our building, which I mean, for safety reasons, for staffing reasons, for emergency contact, like everything. Like I want to know who I've got. So do make sure that you sign up for that. I think there's another slide for me. Yeah. So this is the link like if you click the link to sign up, you're going to open a PDF that looks like this. And each one of these little blue squares are a button, and they're a different button for a different time. So there's actually 12 on this page. It's just the easiest way for me to host all of these and still keep them hidden on my website so that like not just anybody can sign up for an open studio. So that's why it's a little bit behind like a paywall or something, right? It's hidden in this PDF. So you guys get the PDF and just click the little button and then you can sign up for your open studio, okay? Now, if you are like out of town, we talked about this last week or not. Like if you're out of town this week, right here, and you're like, we can't come because we're going to be leaving on Sunday or on Monday, that's fine. It's fine. Our goal for our drawing students is that we've finished your project if you're a 103er. There is not a fourth drawing lesson, right? Because it's a wild card week. If you're a multimedia student, our goal is that you take your project home in week 3. And so that week 4 open studio is just that. It is an open studio. We're gonna have stations set up. We will still have the ink stuff out. We will still have the drawing stuff out. If people want to do a wild card week, if they want to work some more on their project, if they want to start a new ink project, they can do that. We'll also have other stuff. Usually the shrinking inks are out. Usually some other, I don't know, reading station is out. And then we have the splat painting on the wall. So it's a fun time. It's a time for people to maybe get to do something they don't normally get to do in art class. So definitely make sure that you come if you can, but if you can't, there's not really a makeup time for it because we're not going to reset up those stations for a makeup. Now, if you don't get your project done in week 3, then definitely sign up for a makeup sometime, whenever, in December, or heck, in January if you need to get through the holidays. It's fine. So if 3 weeks isn't enough, we try to plan the project so they get done in 3 weeks. But 3 weeks isn't enough for your kiddo. It's okay. It's okay. Come do a makeup sometime in December, or if December's too nutty, come do a makeup sometime in January, and we'll wrap it up for you. Okay? All right. I think that's it. All right, we're going to go through this one. This is a big one. We're going to go through the registration. So right now, if you're seeing this video, your registration, like your enrollment, goes through the end of December. So you are automatically signed up for the classes all the way through the end of the semester, which is the end of 2025. Okay. If you are paying monthly, you've got one more monthly tuition charge coming up on December 1st. If you're paying by semester, then you're done. You've been done since August, right? So on the 17th is when you will get early access to the registration links. The links go public for the next semester on the 1st, okay? So we have to re-enroll for the next semester, and you guys get them about 2 weeks early, okay? So here's my notes. Are you ready? Everyone has to re-enroll. Your registration that you are at right now does not carry over. If you are currently coming to a Monday illustrative drawing 102 class and you want to keep coming to a Monday drawing 102 class, you'll have to re-register for that class. Okay. If not, you know, those registration links go live on December 1st and somebody else can grab it. And the reason I use 102 as an example is because those are the classes that are full. Those ones are like, and they're always full. We added like 4 new classes and it's still full. So they're always full. So do make sure that you use that early access link and secure your spot, because I hate for somebody who's been with us for a semester to miss out on being with us until next year, because that's what'll happen. It'll fill up and it will not be a spot until next fall. So use those early access links. Fall registrations do not carry over. They're going to go out Monday, 17th, and they're going to expire on Wednesday, the 26th. So I'm going to go back to this calendar because I want to show you. Right here is where they will expire. So you don't have over Thanksgiving weekend to use that link. And the reason for that is because I have to go in and turn off some different options to make it so that other people, like, it can go live. Like, I have work to do to change it from a private link to a public link. So that gives me over Thanksgiving weekend to do that. It also gives me opportunities, like, let's say you're in a multimedia class right now, but you would rather be in one of those Drawing 102 classes. What happens is I will give all the 102 people the links to their class. They have until the 26th to grab their spot. And if they don't, then over that holiday weekend, if you've told me as a multimedia parent that you would rather be in 102, I will put you in the 102 class. Okay? So that just gives me a little bit of time before we even open it to the public. Okay? All right, I wanted to show you this. So there's a couple different registration options. I'm going to talk through 3 options. The first 2 here, option 1 and option 2, is something that everybody has the ability to use. So not just my current students, not just you guys, but everybody, when we put the registration links public, will have these opportunities, right? So the first one is the monthly tuition. This is the same. If you're not new to Orange Easel, you're like, I already know this. It's okay. We're going to talk about it anyway, right? So you always have the option to pay monthly. That's this like auto enrollment. If you registered mid-semester, this was your only option. So you're on auto enrollment, you're registered from January through May. You can cancel anytime by letting us know by the 20th. When you sign up, you're going to pay your January fee. And then your next charge is on February 1st. Okay. This is really important here because I'll have some people use the link. They'll sign up on, like, say, November 25th, and they'll choose the monthly option. They'll pay their January tuition when they sign up on the 25th. And then on December 1st, their December tuition gets charged. And then they look at their credit card bill sometime in like mid-December, and they're like, I have 2 Orange Easel charges. And then they dispute one of them because there's a lot going on in the holidays. Please don't do that. That's really bad for my credit ratings. Like, don't do that. So, one's your January and one's your December. Okay. If the January paying that monthly tuition is really hard right now in the month, please come talk to me. Because what we can do is we can get you set up on monthly billing and just have your January tuition come out on January 1st. We can't do it automatically, but I can do it manually. Okay. Your second option, which is the most popular one that most people do, this is that semester tuition rate. So this is where you pay those 5 months as a semester, like all up front. So if it's $105 a month, it's whatever 105 times 5 minus 15% is. That's the semester. Okay. You're enrolled through May. There's no cancellation. You pay your entire semester fee at sign up. You get a 15% on tuition, 15% discount. You get all the studio club perks, which we won't go over, but it's like half price birthday parties and discounts. The biggest one for this semester is that you get early access to the summer catalog. So you get to sign up for summer early if you're a studio club member. And then if you sign up before December 2nd using this option, you get a free t-shirt. So if you've ever wondered how people get the Orange Easel t-shirts, like when they show up for class, that's how. Okay. So these 2 options are available to anybody. Brand new students, you guys as well. For you guys, and only you guys who are my fall semester students, we do offer one more option. And this one expires with the early access links. This is another like edit that I do before I make everything go live. And this one is a semester tuition. It still gives you Studio Club. It still gives you the t-shirt. It still gives you the 15% discount, but it still has like no cancellations. So just know, like, you're not getting any money back if you're like, hey, we're gonna have to stop in April. Like, that's no. So and then, but the way it's broken in is a 75 deposit at sign up and then 3 payments. So there's no like additional fees like for the payments. I just basically took the big chunk of semester tuition, subtracted $75 off of it, and then divided the remaining into 3 payments. So if that's an easier pill to swallow, that is available to you guys and you guys only, and it will expire with the early access links. So there's the 3 options here. I feel like I'm running an infomercial, but I felt like that was good, right? You like that? Okay. If you have questions about that, I'm going to post some more information in our private Facebook group, and we'll talk a lot about it. It's really about which of these works best for you. The pricing is the same on 2 and 3. So the dollar amount that you're going to spend is the same. The only difference is when you're paying it. Okay. Option 1, when you're doing the monthly tuition, has a lot more flexibility, and you can cancel anytime. But you are gonna it does it's full price, whereas these guys are discount. Okay. All right. Lastly, holiday classes and mini break camps, just to let everybody know, like those are still happening, and we'd love to see you. If you are a Studio Club member for the fall, you get a discount on these. So make sure you use your coupon code. Okay. If you have problems with the coupon code, you let me know. All right, everybody. We're going to keep talking about that registration. We'll talk about it more next week. Yeah. So I hope everybody has a great week 2 of November. And if you need anything, please let me know. We'll talk to you soon.